I'd like to welcome BrickinNick to this episode of Crossing the Streams. Hello, Nick.
Hello, Amor. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining me for this episode. Nick, you are one of the earliest Twitch streamers in the Lego community, and so it's an absolute honor to have you on this show. I think for those that have been around for a while, uh, you know, associate your name with a lot of the early streams of brick building here on Twitch. But for those that don't know about Brick and Nick, why don't you share a little bit about you and your channel?
Yeah, I've definitely been part of the brick building community on Twitch for a very long time. Some people do like to say I like myself, along with our awesome friend Set to Build, are like founders of the brick building community. We actually started streaming in the same month, which was in January of 2016. And I think we both kind of saw that there was just a weird lack of Lego content on Twitch. And with how big Twitch was getting at that time, and especially pushing creative and stuff, it seemed like a really awesome opportunity to encourage and build a community around brick building. So we both kind of started doing our streams. We focused a little bit more on creative builds. Johnny, or Set to Build, obviously a little bit more focused on building sets, as his name applies or implies. And I've just really enjoyed kind of seeing how the community has grown and evolved over so many years. I guess really now it's been like about 6.5 years since that all started. And it's just been wildly fun getting to share, in my journey of bringing Lego creations to life. I think pretty much everything you see in and around the background here has been built on one stream or another. So it's really cool that I've kind of, been able to share my journey in bringing these creations to life with so many awesome people, and even just like getting feedback from people as we're building, getting lots of ideas and inspiration from the people that I get to hang out with in the community I've built. So yeah, it's just so much fun all around.
You have been around for 6.5 years, which, in the Twitch world, that probably seems like a lot longer. I mean, six and
I
a half
feel like
years
an
is
old man.
6.5 years is a long time, but then I think in Twitch years, it probably feels more like 10 or more.
Yes,
And so
precisely.
I've not personally heard your story in terms of how you got into Lego and kind
For
of
sure.
where it's brought you
Yeah.
today. So could you tell me a bit more about your history with Lego?
Absolutely. Yeah. My journey with Lego kind of started from when I was a little kid. I remember building with building blocks at my grandmother's house. I remember getting my first Lego set on a day that I was pretending to be sick. And my grandparents took me to Walmart and we bought a little set. And that's kind of like what really sparked the whole journey with Lego in particular. And I've just loved building ever since. And I feel like I was very fortunate in that I grew up at a time where internet communities were really developing and stuff. So kind of around the age where it would have been very easy to just give up on building and lose interest in it, as most people do as they get older. I discovered the online community, which was primarily based on Flickr, interestingly enough, the photography website.
Mhm.
And I was just blown away with all the amazing creations that I was seeing on there, and kind of the community and how they were all interacting and supporting each other and motivating each other to just keep building. And that really motivated me to keep at it. And so kind of I kept my Lego building interest, throughout the later years of grade school and into high school. And during that time, I started to find out about Lego user groups. That I found out there were people in Toronto who would get together on a regular basis to talk and hang out and show off their builds. And that just really kind of brought me fully into it. And then I managed to just carry that interest of building through for the rest of my life. Because as I got older, I just realized, man, I love this thing so much. Like there is zero reason for me to drop this as a passion. It's really no different than being an artist. If someone likes to paint as a kid, they'll probably still continue to enjoy it through their adulthood. So why should I stop, right?
Right.
Um, and then yeah, in 2015, I think it was, through actually my interest in Destiny, the video game, I kind of like stumbled and started to learn a little bit more about Reddit, and I was obviously picking up lots of info and details on how to improve in the game and just different builds and all that kind of interesting stuff. But I also started to hear about this website called Twitch, where you could play with other people, and streamers would invite you to join them for activities. And it happened to be at a time where a lot of the people I was playing Destiny with originally were kind of falling off, but I was still interested. So I was looking for more people to play with. And I'm like, let me go check out these streams and see if maybe I can find someone to play with. And that ended up happening. And so while I was getting more into the world of Twitch, Twitch was pushing creative as kind of a thing for people to stream.
Mm.
And I was just blown away that nobody was doing it, like doing Lego building in particular on Twitch. I searched, and there was like one random stream that someone had done of like a Minecraft set.
Mhm.
And I was like, there's an opportunity here to like do something cool, try something different, and really keep me motivated to keep building and pushing myself with, what I do creatively. And it's really just taken me to where I am today. And my journey over the last 6.5 years with streaming has been very, very interesting. Do you want me to start to dive into that, or
Yeah, let's
yeah, we'll
go.
go for it? Cool.
I'd love to hear
Yeah,
about
yeah,
it.
yeah. And so just to give a little bit of background of other things I was doing along the way, I worked at the Lego store for almost 6 years between
Mhm.
2011 and 2017. So that was obviously a great opportunity for me to keep my passion going and keep my passion ignited. But I went to university for mechanical engineering, and I did work some engineering jobs. Um, and so, like, I think I carried my engineering jobs about 2 or 3 years into my streaming career. And
Mhm.
so I was kind of just doing streaming on the side as I was doing my, my full-time job. There was actually a point where I was streaming, working at the Lego store and working in mechanical engineering all at the same time.
Wow.
And I just felt like there was so much opportunity with the streaming, and I felt like I couldn't give it the time and energy that I really wanted to. So
Mhm.
I slowly dropped off of my more proper jobs. I quit the Lego store first, dedicated a little bit more time to the stream. Felt like I still wasn't getting what I needed out of it.
Mhm.
And so I made the bold decision, but I was also very fortunate that I was in a position where I could comfortably kind of quit
Yeah.
my job. Very
Yeah.
thankful. I do want to give a shout out to my parents. Honestly, they've been crazy supportive of my journey in allowing me to, quit the career that they had imagined for me and let me try this crazy streaming thing.
Right.
Um, so I quit my engineering job, and I really put my heart and soul into the streaming. And that's actually when I started a live stream building competition, which was before Lego Masters was ever ideated or concept or
Look
a
at that.
concept or anything. And it was called Battle of the Bricks. And so I did my first season of that show. It was a live stream building competition where like the audience would have say on what's going on and stuff. And I do still want to do more of that in the future. And I've done 3 seasons total now. But that was something really, really fun to do. I did that. It felt really, really good to kind of like fully pursue something with streaming that I wanted to be doing.
Mhm.
But it did also quickly become evident that I was a ways off from, kind of making a full time career of content creation. So I
Mhm.
ended up picking up a part time job at Apple. And so I was working part time at Apple, doing my thing with streaming. I had a really good balance going where I felt like I could dedicate the time I needed to continue to grow my streaming career. And I got lucky with some opportunities where I got to do a building event with Set to Build at TwitchCon in 2017.
Mhm.
I got to do a really cool Overwatch event in 2018 where they had like a Lego promo, and I was a featured streamer for that. And so like a lot of opportunities like that started to come up, and I just kept trying to put myself out there,
Yeah.
let people see how cool and unique Lego can be and what kind of fun it can bring to both physical and virtual events. And that really, kind of helped me build up my brand. And so that ended up leading into Amazon reaching out to me about their live streaming platform. They were launching something called Amazon Live, and they were looking for people that kind of had cool and unique content. And so I guess I stood out to them in that sense.
Yeah.
And I ended up starting streaming on there. And that slowly grew into something that I could do full time and eventually allowed me to quit Apple. And I am now a full time content creator. So I do like my live streams on Amazon stuff, which is admittedly not like maybe my favorite part of what I do in terms of content creation, but
Mhm.
it gives me a lot of opportunity and time to focus on all of the other things I get to build around, doing events, obviously doing my own streams where I get to focus on doing creative builds, and so much more.
That is one amazing journey. There's a lot in there, and
There is.
there's some things to unpack. There's a lot of things to unpack. So, what were those early streams like for you trying to figure out how to make that work here on this platform?
Yeah, it was very interesting for sure. I had like a really, really crappy setup. I had like two, just basic webcams that I'd already happened to have lying around at my house. And I think I was originally I had like a bunk bed with like a desk underneath it.
Yeah.
That's what it given me more space in my bedroom that I'd grown up in to kind
Yeah.
of have a lot of room for Lego. And so I think I hooked a webcam like into the underframe of the bed, and I had it pointing down on my desk, and then I just had a webcam on a monitor. And so it was just like, a little cam of me and then a big cam of me building. And I remember I was building something from Destiny because I was still very into Destiny, and I knew I wanted to stream some Destiny alongside
Yeah.
my Lego building, especially because I knew there wasn't a community around Lego building. So just streaming Lego building out to nobody wasn't really gonna benefit me all that much. Whereas there were opportunities to kind of network and make friends. And I really do like to, I would say, focus on making friends over like networking. For me, it
Mhm.
was about finding people that I really shared a lot of common interests with and would have a lot of fun with naturally.
Mhm.
So I was doing like 2 days a week of gaming or of Destiny, 1 day a week of building. And so that's kind of how that slowly started to come together. And it was just like, it was a lot of trial and error. I was just like building. I thought I would do a lot more like educational stuff. And I always still want to do that, but I
Mhm.
find it very hard to like really kind of translate a lot of my thinking process of how I build and
Mhm.
kind of like externalizing that, I guess.
Right.
So that's all honestly something I'm still working on every day, really.
Mhm.
But that was kind of my original like thought with it is that, it'll be cool that people can come in, kind of learn about my building process, see it
Mm.
come to life. And then also like potentially if I started to meet other builders and stuff and have some of my building friends join in the live streaming world, they'd be able to actually help me figure things out with my builds too. So it'd kind of be like a win-win scenario and like kind of a place for just like open collaboration. So that's really what the early streams felt like, was just like trying to figure out, like, is this something people like? Do they want to see this? Is it something people are interested in like engaging with?
Yeah.
And luckily, it turned out to be the case that a lot of people enjoy building and talking about these crazy little plastic bricks. And yeah, and slowly grew into something more and more.
In those early days when you were, going through trial and error trying to figure out what was working, what wasn't, were
Mhm.
there any things that stuck out to you when you were doing these streams? Like, "Oh, I should really look into doing this more," or something that you tried that completely didn't work and decided, I'll maybe not do this, but I'll do more of whatever this thing is?
I think it was like really just figuring out the streaming game more
Mm.
so than anything. Like, I think in a sense, like the great thing about Twitch is it's not necessarily so much about what the actual content is. It's about
Mhm.
how you approach sharing that content and bringing that content to life. So I think it was a lot about figuring out, like having a schedule, how long your stream should be. What are the most important parts of your setup that are going to have an impact? Like I think it's easy to look at a lot of streams and go, "Oh, I really want, a fancy camera and really cool, I don't know, like alerts and animations." But like, I think, I became very apparent that a microphone is your first thing. If you sound bad, nobody's gonna watch you. So it was a
Right.
lot of figuring out, I think, a lot of the streaming world related things. I was spending a lot of time on the Twitch subreddit at that time, which felt a little bit more intimate at that time and not so kind of massive.
Mhm.
Um, and just like exploring websites that had like tutorials and tips on how to develop your streaming, and then of course looking to the people who were successful on Twitch and who were growing on Twitch. How can I adapt some of the things that they're doing and bring that to my content? So I think it was a lot of just like exploring the world of streaming in general, and
Mhm.
then using what was unique about Lego as a strength. So I think one of the first like big opportunities I got was doing TwitchCon, and in a sense, I was very lucky with that. In that I like Twitch had put out like a call for panels. I think it was really all they were looking for.
Mhm.
And but I had this idea to do like a brick building event, and I was kind of stealing that idea from what they do for Lego Store grand openings, where essentially they build a model out of 2x4 bricks, and then people can come to this event and build giant 2x4 bricks, and then
Mhm.
rebuild that model at 4 times the size.
Mhm.
So it's a really fun and simple concept. So I had the idea to do that for the Twitch logo at TwitchCon. So I like submitted this within their panel thing, not really expecting anything of it. And lo and behold, the person, like the main TwitchCon organizer, is a huge Lego fan. So when she saw this event, it stood out to her. She thought it'd be really awesome. And I got to do that. And that really started to get the word out on the brick building community.
Yeah.
And we just continue to look for opportunities like that and unique ways to bring that content to life, to really get the word on the brick building community out there.
There's been this evolution in the last 6.5 years
Mhm.
from going from just a handful of people streaming Lego, and now you can find, you know, most hours of the day, you can find someone streaming brick building
Absolutely.
as a
Yeah.
tag. Like, what are your thoughts on, how the community has grown in these last several years?
I think what's been most interesting about how the community's grown is like how different people approach like Lego content. I think just like any other content where everybody's going to have their own take on how they go about it, it's
Mhm.
been really, really cool to see a little bit more of a broader evolution just because the community started so small. We all kind of had a similar feeling and vibe with it. We all felt like what we were doing was working pretty well. And we were maybe not being as like bold in
Mm.
some ways in terms of like how we approached it. And
Mhm,
so I think as more and more people have come into the world of Lego content creation, they've brought very, very different perspectives and unique ideas to it. And so
mhm,
I think it's just so, so cool that every brick building stream now really does have something very unique and different to it. And each community has something different to offer. And I just love that, like, no matter what Lego brick, like no matter what brick building streamer you start with, you never know which one you're going to kind of end up like kind of really molding into, and which community you're really going to feel at place in. Like, I think
mhm.
it's so cool that as long as someone can find one brick building streamer, they're going to end up finding a home somewhere in the brick building community. And I think some people would look at that as almost a bad thing, and that, like, honestly, sometimes I feel like I'm a gateway to the brick building community, that like I'm lucky to have a lot of opportunities, and it's like people can, find me in places that they wouldn't find any other brick building community streamers. But then because, I'm always doing my best to get the word out on who's out there, like, people end up finding other brick builders that they really, really love and hang out with. And so I may not see them as much anymore, but I love seeing that, when I hop into XYZ's chat, I see them hanging out there, and I'm like, oh man, I got to like play a role in this person finding someone that they love watching. Like, so I think it's just really, really cool how there's a different brick building streamer for everybody out there.
It's definitely true, right? You have a very broad spectrum now of content
Mhm.
creators within our
Exactly.
space. You have, uh, ones that are purely mock builders, you have ones that are purely set builders, everyone's personality is different, so some are more hype than others are cozy, brick building streams. Was there anything, with the way it's going now, where do you see the brick building community going now that we're growing
Ooh.
at this rate?
That's an interesting one. Honestly, I think like one of the big things that I would love to see for the community is a little bit more recognition from Twitch. I loved, for example, like I know Panfrenudo recently got a feature as part of
Mhm,
AAPI Heritage Month. That was fantastic to see, and I just hope that Twitch will slowly come to recognize that the brick building community is really big and impactful. I would love to see more than anything a category for brick building. Like, the tag's great, and it's honestly so fantastic that I feel like more and more people are kind of easily finding it.
mhm,
Whereas it used to be like something we have to actively tell people. I think both like myself and Set to Build can speak to, in the early days we had to actively find people streaming Lego. So Twitch's search system actually used to be weirdly better in that you could type in Lego and see what people were live with Lego in their title.
mhm.
And so we spent a lot of time just like while we were sitting around or like after streams, we would search Lego and be like, okay, is anyone streaming today? Like, can we help find someone, understand that a community exists around this thing that they may
Mhm.
just be doing as a one off, right? Kind of like how you had mentioned in a sense that you had felt like you were kind of just doing out of the blue, and then, you
Yeah.
realize there was more to it and such. Um, so wow, I just lost my train of thought there for a second. But like, yeah, so essentially in that it's just been very like I just want it to be easier for people to be aware of brick building on Twitch. Because
Yeah.
I feel like it's just such a natural thing for people to be able to share. And Lego's such a chill thing that you can just chat through while you're building. And why not just have everybody know that's an experience that they can share.
I think that's a great point, knowing that, the brick building community has grown so much over the years, and the hope is that we'll get even more recognition, and, you're currently, you've been fielding for this for a while on Twitch's user voice. For those that don't know what that
Mhm.
is, it's a way to provide suggestions and feedback from the Twitch community for Twitch to see, and the rest of the community can upvote those things. Do you have a user voice post, you and Johnny, to promote
Yeah,
a category for brick builders?
exactly. Yeah.
So for those of you that didn't know, brick building as a category is something the brick building community has really been striving to hit. Do you have like a ballpark number on how many people even like stream brick building now?
For like nowadays,
Yeah, nowadays.
I feel like based on like honestly, yeah, like you said earlier, it's so nice that now like when you go to like the brick building tag, you're guaranteed to I feel like find like anywhere from 3 to 10 people streaming
Mhm.
Lego, and it's so so nice. Like, there's honestly new people all the time. I almost feel bad in that like it was nice that I used to kind of be able to know everybody who streamed brick building, right? Now
Right.
the community's grown so much that I can't hope to keep up with it.
Yeah.
Um, but I feel like it's probably like I feel like a good like 40 to 50 people are probably actively streaming Lego every week.
I would say roughly 40, 50 who stream it regularly, and then
Mhm.
I would probably put on another 20 to 25
I
who
would agree.
bring it into, like, their rotation as variety streamers,
Yeah,
whether they're just gaming, just chatting, whatever they might be, but then they
mhm,
do Lego here and there
absolutely.
throughout their
Yeah.
time.
And I think in terms of like what I would imagine, maybe even like more so in terms of the future of the brickbuilding community as well. I think
Mhm,
we're going to start to like really see people doing like really cool and different things. Like I think one thing that Twitch has shown is like the endless amount of creativity you can have with how you
mhm,
go about your content in terms of just like how crazy you can get with doing stuff with green screens and alerts and lights and a lot of like I feel like a lot of brickbuilding streamers are doing like bits and pieces of that, and some of them are doing it, of course, really awesomely. But like
mhm.
I think there's like a much greater height to be reached with that kind of stuff. And especially as technology continues to evolve, I think it's going to be really, really cool to kind of see like just how far people can take what a brick building stream can look like.
Yeah, I feel like we're starting to scratch,
Hmm.
the surface. You mentioned Battle of the Bricks, which was
Hmm.
something that you did, uh, during your time. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Because I've heard
Yeah.
of like, I wasn't actively watching as much, so I
Oh,
don't
okay.
know as much about that show when you were
Yeah.
working on it.
So that was an idea I had that I thought would really be something unique and really show like just how much you can do with brick building in general, like how far you can take it.
Yeah.
So the idea was eight builders, seven battles, one master builder was kind of like my tagline for it. And
Mhm,
so I did 3 seasons in total. The first 2 seasons I invited in like all people from the Lego building community. So not
mhm,
necessarily people who are into the world of streaming and content creation, but just people that I knew was very fortunate to know and thought of as very, very good builders. So I invited them in and we would set up a bracket. They all got randomly matched up. And then I would stream each battle individually. And during those battles, they would do a wide variety of creative building tasks. A lot of them would end up being decided by chat because I obviously wanted to ensure that I was showing what was unique about a competition show that's live streamed, and that's being
right.
able to get feedback from the audience live. So they would typically, I would pick a couple of themes, throw them up in a poll, and then chat would pick, and then the builders would just have to build to whatever the theme was picked in that moment. And I would often have charity incentives tied into it as well. So, chat donated like certain amounts and such that could trigger certain like challenges. So they'd have to, build with one hand, they'd have to build with one eye covered. So there would just be lots of fun ways for kind of the stream to feel like they were really part of the battles. And then they would ultimately end up voting on whose build they liked best as well. So they really got to have a full say in the entire process.
Mm,
And it just felt like such a cool and unique thing to be able to do. It was honestly like one of the most exhausting and most challenging things I had ever tackled, probably as a person, to be honest. Like, I feel like I was more stressed out about how this series went that I created than
yeah.
any of my engineering exams or anything like that. I will maybe be vulnerable for a moment here and even admit, like, I remember like an hour before my first like Battle of the Bricks episode, I was just sitting at my desk, like I thought it, like I had kind of everything ready, but I was just feeling the nerves. Like I'm like something's gonna go wrong, this is gonna suck, and I just like
Mhm,
broke down and cried because I was just feeling like all that pressure, all this time and effort I put, and I was just so worried that it wasn't gonna work out. And don't get me wrong, there were lots of technical difficulties on the first episode and stuff, but
mhm,
once we got it done and I saw the end result of it, it was just like wow, like how cool is this thing that like I got to like make and like create. And so we've done 3 seasons of it. The first 2 seasons again were with builders. The third season I mixed it up and I had it be content creators. So I reached out to a bunch of Twitch partners that I had met over the years, that I thought would be really fun, and I knew had like a general interest in Lego in some capacity.
mhm,
And so I had them do more so like unique challenges with sets in that like to build a set based on just what they could see from the box image, to do a blind build. So they had to have a box where their hands could go through and build. And so
mhm.
they would like race to get through a series of challenges. And chat would, of course, still have lots of fun ways to kind of, make their lives even more miserable than they already were. And so it was really, really fun getting people together, having them go head to head in these really, really fun and silly challenges, and then having chat, kind of decide and see who is the best builder of them all.
Right. And you said you want to do more with it in the future. Is that
Yeah.
something, yeah, that's something, that you're looking at. I guess to pick your brain, what kind
Mhm.
of things would you like to do in a future version of this?
You know what? It's not even that I want to do necessarily so much like different from what I'm already doing. I think a lot of it has already been really, really successful, and I love a lot of the format and stuff.
Mhm,
Um, It's honestly mostly a time thing, and that it just is a very intensive thing to have to
Yeah.
plan. I'm essentially like the, I don't know, producer, camera guy, script writer, like, every role that you
Right.
can think of for a TV show, like I'm kind of doing it as a one-man show.
Right.
So it's just a ton of work. And as I've become a full-time content creator in a way, I've almost like lost out on time to dedicate to that.
Mhm.
Just because I have to obviously stay on top of so much more. Whereas like when I was working part time, it was weird in that like I could just show up to my part time job, do it, and leave. But like now that I'm fully in charge of my own career, I have to be on that 24/7, and I feel like it's so much more distracting, and it just makes it hard to feel like I have the time to dedicate to creating the and another season of the show.
Yeah.
Um, but I would say I've definitely had a vision for at some point in the future. I would love to be able to do it in a studio and have everybody in the same space.
Yeah.
So rather than everybody kind of doing it from their home setups and me having to ship everything out to every builder all over the place,
Yeah.
I'd love to be able to have it all in a studio with everybody together, and maybe have it done over 2 or 3 days, and it could all be live streamed and then like also filmed and edited down to be like something that could be watched on YouTube really easily.
That's very cool. I
Yeah,
look forward to, you getting a chance to do that. Hopefully
hopefully, hopefully,
hopefully, yeah, hopefully in the future sometime.
yeah.
You have such an extended background in Twitch and streaming, and building Lego on stream. When you kinda look back at this journey, is there, uh, any what you would consider defining moments for you that have really made it clear where you are steering this ship that is BrickinNick's content?
I do think like the success of the first Battle of the Bricks felt really, really good. Like
Mhm,
the overall feedback for that like concept and show was extremely positive, both from the builders and anyone who was watching. So I
mhm,
think that showed that like I had good ideas and I was bringing good ideas to life. And then honestly, like I think just seeing how excited people get from the builds that I come up with. I obviously like to tie a lot of my builds into things that are hip and happening, pop culture stuff.
right,
And a lot of the times, the excitement that I get from some of those builds is honestly incredibly rewarding. Like, I obviously enjoy the process of building just for myself and the satisfaction of knowing I can do it.
mhm,
But that additional feedback from the broader community just really, really goes a long way to make it feel like I've kind of chosen the right thing. And that, not only am I excited about it, other people are excited about it too. So that's really, really rewarding. And I think in a sense that's been shown through the fact that, Twitch took a chance on me doing that TwitchCon event.
mhm,
Overwatch reaching out, like I would never have imagined in a million years that like, a video game like Overwatch would, recognize and see that I had done some cool Overwatch builds. And that could mean that like I could be someone they could consider for a crazy cool opportunity. Even, a lot of like charity related opportunities, getting to do things like the GCX charity marathon. I was invited to do Dr. Lupo's Build Against Cancer event.
mhm.
Um, the fact that people see so much value and so much uniqueness in my content, I think has just been extremely rewarding and really made me feel like, oh, like man, yeah, like you know what? I obviously enjoy what I'm doing here, but it's clear that other people do too, and that just really takes it to the next level in terms of how awesome it feels to be able to do this.
That's great. It really I mean, I can feel that it really just inspires and motivates you to continue to do what you're doing
Mhm.
on the platform. Uh, are there any other creators on Twitch or, on the internet in general that really inspire you or drive you to continue to build your
That's a good
content?
one. I think I weirdly look at a lot of YouTubers, and it's not necessarily about what they do with their content. It's just about the time that they put into it. I
Mhm,
think one common misconception with content is people will look at someone and go, "Oh wow, like look at that. They're big, they're massive. They blew up, and it must be so nice and easy to be a video game streamer or be a whatever YouTuber." But I think people often miss and very willingly overlook the amount of time that people just put into content, right? And
right.
honestly, I feel crazy fortunate. Like, if I'm being honest, like I would not have imagined that I'd be full time this early in my career. So while I
Mhm,
know I said I feel like an old man in terms of streaming, I also
mhm,
still feel like I've been very fortunate to be able to get to the point where I'm doing content creation full time much earlier than I would have expected.
yeah,
Um, is if you look at a lot of the best YouTubers out there, they've been doing it for 10, 15 years. And it took them that long before they even started to get popular.
Right.
They really committed to the craft. They worked on developing it and evolving it and, adapting to all the different changes in the content creator landscape. And so I think I just like look at a lot of examples like that. And
Mhm.
even in times where I might feel down about my content, maybe I'm not getting as many viewers, maybe my followers aren't growing as much. I always just try to step back and think, you know what, this isn't a sprint. This is a marathon. Content creation is a long haul thing. It's not like, don't get me wrong, overnight successes happen and that can
Mhm.
be awesome. And obviously, if you can find success with that, like awesome.
Mhm.
But the tried and true method really of being successful with content creation is just putting in the time, putting in the hours, being committed, being consistent. And I've been very fortunate to be in a position where I can be consistent with what I've been doing for so long.
Mhm.
um, so yeah, I think it's really that kind of stuff that keeps me motivated and is always a good reminder that, like, even when things aren't feeling as good, just being conscious of the fact that it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Like, and as long as you keep at it and keep going and keep putting yourself out there and keep taking risks, like, some of that will eventually pay off and continue to allow you to hopefully keep doing it.
I think that's incredible wisdom, that, a lot of creators need to hear. And you kind of already answered this question, but if you were to give a creator any more advice, maybe one who's just started in their content creation career and they're kind of lost and they're wondering, how do I stay how do I stay motivated? How do I feel like I can grow if I don't think I'm really doing that right now?
I think it's really just like finding the things that you enjoy. And that honestly applies to so many things. Like when people ask me, how do I get started with building? Like the same thing applies. Like whether you want to start streaming or you're looking to keep motivated for streaming and content creation, it's finding something you really, really love and making your content around that. And I know that like that may not always seem like the best advice in that, if you really love some random niche video game that barely anyone plays or anything like that, you know, it may not feel like the right thing because there's no community around that. But at the same time, realistically, there was no community for Lego in the live streaming world. And yeah, I took a chance on kind of starting that. But I also found something else I enjoyed and was able to kind of bridge that together. And that slowly allowed me to kind of build into it. So
Mhm,
I think it's like because if you don't have the passion for it at the end of the day, you're going to
mhm.
really struggle to keep motivated for it. I don't know. I feel like that's like very generic advice, but at the end of the day, it is really true. Because if you don't enjoy it, you're never going to be able to put the time and effort, and it will be apparent when you're forcing yourself to do something you don't really like. Um,
Right.
so yeah, I would say if you can find a thing that you both enjoy and can be successful in a sense, like in that, like, obviously if you can find like a mid to high levelly viewed game or something like that, for example, that
Mhm.
has a really nice niche community but has a good base there, and you happen to enjoy that game as well, like that could be a really great place for you to start. I think the brick building community is in a great place as well. In that, like, obviously, if you like building, there's a wonderful community for you to make friends within and stuff like that, and that's going to help you give you like a good foundation to kind of get started to build your own community and such.
Is there anything specific you would tell a young BrickinNick early in his content career?
Oof. It's gonna be the worst, but I feel like it is like understanding that when it comes to Twitch in particular, most of the work you need to put in to be successful on Twitch has to happen outside of Twitch. Like
Yeah.
my success came from the TwitchCon thing. It's come from a lot of things I've like stumbled upon on social media. Like I've had a weird number of opportunities come about from like replying to a tweet. Like it's so weird that so much of what allows you to be successful on Twitch has to happen elsewhere. And in
Yeah.
a sense, like I'm kind of still resentful for that. Like, I wish you could just put out great content on Twitch and like be
Mhm.
successful, but that's really not how the world of Twitch works. It's really different from YouTube in that sense, in that like if you're very good at content on YouTube, chances are the algorithm's going to scoop that up and promote it to people, and you'll be able to build your channel that way. Twitch does
Right.
not have that same discoverability, so it is very much you got to put yourself out there in as many places as possible to help bring people to where you're making the content you really enjoy, which is hopefully live streaming.
Yeah, I would love to echo that 'cause you're absolutely right. It's strange that on Twitch, to be successful on Twitch doesn't necessarily mean you need to be doing incredible things on Twitch. I mean, obviously, that is a major component of it,
Mhm.
but it's more about how can my content proliferate onto these other platforms that do have real, like, discoverability, strong, algorithms that can share it out. And I love that you touched on that because that's a recurring theme on this show when we hear from creators like yourself. Like, how do you do better? How do you get people to know about you? And the recurring theme is uh, do cool stuff on other platforms as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
That brings us into a wonderful segue to your Amazon Live broadcasting.
Mhm.
Um, I've seen a couple of those streams myself, and I just got to ask for you as someone who streams to Twitch proper and then this Amazon Live piece. What How is that different as someone who streams? How's that different, and how does that feel for you?
Yeah, Amazon does definitely feel a little bit more like kind of going into a job. Whereas,
Mhm.
like, I think streaming on Twitch feels very natural to me. I just get to be myself and hang out as me. But obviously, with Amazon, there is kind of like an underlying secondary thing that I have to be doing. I have to be kind of showing and showcasing product. And that's the nature of Amazon. And I try to approach it like from in my mind, the best way I can, in that, like, people are already shopping on Amazon. They're likely already buying a lot of the things that I'm showing off anyways. So
Mhm.
I think of myself as more as someone who can just help give a little bit of extra direction. I really do think about it a lot like my retail jobs, right? And that, like, I worked at the Lego store and I never tried to push product in either like working at the Lego store or at the Apple store, but people were obviously coming in interested in those things already. And
Right.
so I just took that as an opportunity to give the best possible information that I'm aware of to help them make the best possible decision.
Right.
And so I think that's very much what my approach has been to Amazon, and that, like, it's a great opportunity for me, obviously, and that it's allowed me to do this full time. So I'm so thankful for that. And
Yeah.
at the same time, I want to bring kind of my best self to it in the best way that I know how. And so I think for me, that's treating it more like a customer service thing where I can just hopefully help people make a better decision about the things that they're already hopefully looking to buy.
Right. So it's more about being informative,
Yeah.
maybe just a resource for
Mhm.
a consumer who's trying to make a decision
Absolutely.
on a product.
Yeah.
When you engage your community and people in your chat, what kind of things do you do to make them feel more involved with the stream?
Yeah, I would say one of my favorite things that I do is called Viewer Builder Quest. It's kind
Mhm.
of like a super ultra light version of what I've done with Battle of the Bricks. And
Mhm.
I just have 1 or 2 days every week. And I've admittedly haven't been doing it for a while just because I'm really getting back into the routine.
Mhm.
But I usually try to have 1 or 2 days a week where my community can come in, suggest random ideas, and I build them in the moment. So it's a very kind of, like, in the moment thing, and that people can obviously get to see me take my approach at building something that they really like and enjoy. And it's honestly, like, I think been a great way for me to continue to push myself as a creative builder, and that I use a very limited set of pieces for it.
Mhm.
So because of that, I have to get very creative with what I have. So it often pushes me to use pieces and techniques in ways that I would never really do otherwise if I just had my full collection to kind of, if I'm building a house, I could easily just grab some roof slopes from my collection and have that. But if I'm doing it with my viewer build request, I may not have enough roof slopes. So I might have to think, what other pieces can I use to kind of achieve the same effect? And so it's been a really great way to keep me motivated in terms of, and keep me kind of developing my skills as a creative builder. But it
Mhm.
also gives Chad an opportunity to see things that they're interested in, they like, kind of come to life in the brick, which is obviously not something you get to do a lot. So especially if you're not a builder yourself. So it's just a really, really fun and interactive thing, and it's definitely one of my favorite things to do on stream.
How many of those would you say you've done at this point?
Like, how many different individual builds?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, like, it's got to be in like the several hundred range. Like, I would not be surprised if we're talking like 700 or 800 plus.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it should be because, like, I feel like I do anywhere from like 4 to 6 a stream,
Mhm.
and I probably done it like a good chunk of the weeks in the year. I'm like trying to do the mental math, but I'm probably not going to be successful with that. Maybe it's not that many, but it's definitely several
Yeah.
hundred for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I've probably witnessed you build, like, a couple dozen just from when I've popped in and out of
Yeah,
your streams in the
exactly.
past, so but I know there's far more than that, so that's, uh, that's incredible. Uh, when you build, mocks on stream,
Mhm.
or even like viewer request builds, do you often get questions about techniques or how to build, or questions from those who are trying to figure out how to start mocking on their own?
You know what? I think one thing that has surprised me about streaming is that I don't get as much of that as I always thought I would.
Mm,
I definitely do have people who are interested and do ask occasionally, but it happens a lot less than I thought. I think I would have expected it to, and I would still say that's very much the case. Like it's kind of been a consistent thing in that there hasn't been as much of a desire for education, at least not in like the live format.
right.
I think what people like, when people ask me, about building and stuff, I'm like, you know what, it would probably be much better for me to have a YouTube video to answer this question rather
Mm,
than me try to answer this in the moment. Cause I think building in general is a very in-depth topic. And so
yeah,
a lot of things that people are looking for in terms of Lego knowledge can't be answered very quickly.
yeah,
So I think that's what's kind of made me realize that that is kind of a better fit for pre-recorded long form content rather than being, something that you can answer on the fly.
yeah. That makes a lot of sense, and actually, I hadn't thought about it that way, but it does make a lot of sense when you think about, maybe I want to learn a new technique or a style of building. Generally, people will search YouTube or do a Google search and end up on a YouTube
Mhm.
video. So, long form video content. Um, in terms of actually, it's great that you bring that up because long form video content, of course, has been a thing for a while. But then, we've seen uh, this just rising amount of short form content that
Mhm.
is kind of proliferating everywhere. We got YouTube Shorts now. Instagram has Reels, and of course,
Mhm.
TikTok is one of the original places to get that. What are your thoughts as a content creator who's been doing so much live streaming on a platform like Twitch? How do you feel like that equates to content now in a shorter form, and how would a brick builder like ourselves be able to build content for that platform?
Yeah, I think the great thing is that there are people doing Lego content successfully for short form.
Hmm.
So I don't think there's any harm in going out there and searching out those people and seeing what they're doing and thinking about how can I put my own take
Uh-huh.
on how they're going about and bringing value to the brick building community in broader sense. And honestly, I've been terrible about it. Like it's
Sure.
honestly, if you're not taking advantage of TikTok as a content creator, you're really not doing a good job. Let's be real. Like you're missing out on this huge opportunity there. But at the same time, I'm very much not taking advantage of that. Like I've tried here and there, had a couple of viral videos, and I have a little bit of a following. But I think one thing that is a big transition being a live streamer is
Hmm.
that TikTok requires and all short form content really requires constant upkeep. Um, and so while I think I find it very easy to stream multiple times a week without issue because that's what feels natural best to me. The thought of having to produce
Yeah.
multiple video pieces every
Right.
week is just mentally exhausting. And I've actually started to force it. And I've dedicated every Monday, I'm going to film one or two short form videos. And I've been doing that actually over the last 3 or 4 weeks. So I'm working on kind of building up a backlog. That way, once I start, I can kind of, have some time and opportunity to, ensure that I can maintain that.
Yeah.
But honestly, I don't know how successful I will be with it. I've said I will be consistent with it in the past, and then I've struggled. So
It's
I,
tough
I I feel like I don't have as much advice to offer as I should on this one.
because you do so many, viewer requests for builds or mocks live. Do you find that doing it live feels a lot different than, say, when you're not streaming and you're kind of working on it without a camera on?
Um, Yeah, I would say it is pretty different. I think it's almost nice sometimes to almost have a distraction from the actual building process itself.
Hmm.
So it can be really nice to just be having a casual conversation about other topics while you're building. It can kind of alleviate some of the stress that there might be from trying to figure things out.
Hmm.
At the same time, I will not deny that, and anyone who's watched my stream can speak to this, that I will definitely get into hard focus mode and have to build in a way like I'm not streaming because sometimes the challenges that are involved with in figuring out a build on a live stream just require a level of focus that doesn't allow you to multitask. At least not for me. I'm sure people who have the ability to multitask much better than I could probably do a better job of that. Um, but in general, I find that I really like kind of having other people to talk with and collaborate with and just share ideas openly with while I'm building.
Right.
But sometimes it also goes like in the complete opposite direction, and I basically have to like shut out the rest of the world and just focus on the task at hand.
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, there's moments where you gotta just take a long look at the build,
Hmm.
get in your own head, and just kind of work through a design problem, so to speak, or a design solution that you're looking for
Yep.
with a
Exactly.
given build.
Yeah, it's like running into a hard boss battle in a video game, like sometimes it just requires intense focus. You can't take your eyes away for even a second to see what chat's up to. Like you just gotta be in the moment and get it done.
Are there any particular content creators that you yourself watch on Twitch?
Honestly, I think I probably watch a lot of stuff that people wouldn't expect, but I actually love competitive gaming.
Mm,
So I will often throw at people who are just really good at the games they like to play. I'm
yeah.
definitely a big fan of FPSs. So like one that jumps to mind is like it's Timmy, for example.
Mhm.
He's just an incredibly skilled player. And so it's really just fun sometimes to have that on in the background and look up and watch him get some crazy kill streak in ways that I could never dream of doing myself.
Right.
Um, and then I definitely love the brick building community and love lurking and hearing about all the news that people cover in the brick building community, seeing
Right.
how people are enjoying different aspects of the builds that they are working on and coming up with. And beyond that, I got to admit, as content creation has unfortunately become more and more full time, it's unfortunately robbed me of a lot of opportunity to watch as much content as I like as well.
Of
So
course.
I'm a very heavy lurker more than anything. And I hate that, but it's just like a necessity in that, like, every minute I'm not working is, a minute that someone else might be taking an opportunity away from me, or a minute that I'm not getting something that I know I should be done. So,
Which is completely understandable. Yeah, no,
yeah.
I get it. I think the more content creators work on their stuff, particularly full-time creators like yourself, uh, you actually end up spending less time watching others because you're focused.
Mhm.
Is there anyone on Twitch that you would love to collaborate with?
Actually, and it's funny because this is reminding me that I think one of my points I wanted to offer in advice earlier was to not be afraid to reach out for collaboration.
Mhm,
Because, and honestly, it's something I still struggle with so badly. Like, I'm always like, I gotta collaborate more. I gotta collaborate more. And then I get ideas and then I don't do it because I'm just
mhm,
scared of like feeling like I'm a burden on someone or that I'm bugging someone. So I would say like the more fearless you can be and that kind of stuff, the more successful you're going to be
mhm.
in whatever you do. Like honestly, like you doing crossing the streams, like like I think people would probably be surprised at how much courage it takes just to reach out to someone in the community and be like, "Hey, are you
Oh,
willing
yeah.
to sacrifice some time to talk to me?" And it's like I'm so happy to be here, but I also know you probably had like there's probably a moment or two where you're like, should I bug Nick? Like, would he be
Yeah.
willing to share with me? Like, I don't know, and I
Yeah.
don't mean to project or anything, but
No, I could talk about that very briefly because there was a moment where, I reached out to you, a couple months ago,
Mhm.
and it was funny because I was working up the courage to do that because of the same things that you just said. Whether
Yep.
it's like, is he gonna wanna take the time out of his day? I know he's busy. Is he gonna want to get on this show that, you know, it's been a couple months since then where I was really kinda just starting this whole thing up, and yeah, it is hard to ask for that. So I'm so glad that you were able to one, come on here, but two, point this out and say it's really hard. It's really hard to
Yes.
ask for that. And
Yes.
so
Yep.
uh, you know, know that it is e every guest I've reached out to has been difficult for me. I have to internally psych myself up
Yeah,
to ask.
exactly. That you really do.
Did you
But in terms of collaborations, like, there's obviously a lot of great content creators out there.
yeah.
I obviously Mr. Beast does crazy cool creative things. I'm sure we could come up with something awesome to do with Lego someday.
Mhm.
There's a lot of tech tubers I would love to do like cool and unique projects with. Like I've always had a dream of doing a full like Lego PC case that looks like an actual PC case.
Oh, yeah.
And having a fully working computer inside of it. That's not something I'd feel comfortable really tackling on my own. I recognize that that's something I have to collaborate with people on.
Mhm.
Um, so there's a lot of ideas like that that are out there. I don't know if there's any I would like be kind of like, so like, oh, I really want to do like this one thing in particular.
Mhm.
Um, but I think it's more so that I just want to be doing collaboration on a more regular basis. And to be honest, I actually had like designed my current studio as is to be a space for collaboration. I wanted to have a nice big open space where multiple people could be standing and hanging out. And
Right.
even with the opposite side of my setup here, where I have my gaming setup, I have it with two PCs. So the idea was that, like, if I wanted to invite someone who's into gaming to come and do some building with me, we could not only share in my passion of building, we could
Mhm.
share in their passion for whatever game they like, whatever game they might like to play. And so we might be able to, like, co-stream us doing some building together and then switch over to co-streaming us playing their favorite video game together or something.
I love
Um,
that.
Unfortunately, I built my studio or finished my studio at the start of January of 2020, and
Yeah.
I managed to have one really cool guest in early March, and then obviously COVID hit. I
Yep.
kind of just chucked all that out the window,
Yep.
and I feel like I guess there's been like a little bit of a nervousness and kind of starting back to that. I still don't necessarily know if people feel comfortable coming over to strangers' house. I still feel like it's a weird thing. So hopefully within the next year or two, it'll start to feel a little bit more comfortable, and maybe I can start trying to get some stuff like that going again.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like
Yeah.
I definitely think I would encourage people to try to be as fearless as possible. No's are okay. You'll never know if you don't ask in the first place.
You actually have a lot of, like, Lego ideas posted, yeah?
I do. I
Yeah.
do. Yes. Honestly, like I would still say my number one goal in life is to, in some way, shape, or form, be the designer of a Lego set.
Mhm.
I grew up with kind of the intention and drive to want to build better creatively and have that lead to being a designer.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm not as interested in living in Denmark as maybe as I expected I would be. As I got older and stuff. Um,
Yeah.
so Lego Ideas is, of course, an amazing platform and opportunity for fans to still have that dream be realized, just in
Yeah.
a little bit of a different way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have three projects that are up on Lego Ideas: the PlayStation 5, the Xbox Series X, and then the Lego Brick Patent,
Yeah.
which are chilling in the background there. And I certainly hope that someday I can get a project to 10K and get it approved and be able to say, "Hey, I'm the designer of a Lego set."
What inspires you to, like, in the case of, like, the console ideas or the patent, how did those come about?
So the consoles I think are like I've obviously just enjoyed replicas in a broad sense over the last few years. I will. It's funny that the first console I wanted to post on ideas was the Nintendo Switch.
Mm.
Um, and that's chilling in the background right there too. It's one of my favorite builds. I got to collab on that one with our good buddy Set to Build.
Mhm.
Um, and I was so excited. I really felt like it was the perfect console to be brought to life as a Lego set because of the unique ways that the Switch functions with the sliding Joy Cons. And we came up with a cool like cartridge system where you could have different games inside of it and stuff. And I posted that like the same week that the Lego Nintendo Entertainment System was announced. And
Right.
it was like, oh man, like I clearly on the right track here.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
just beat me to the punch with a different thing.
Yeah.
So, I don't know why it took me so long to get around to doing the PS5 and Xbox. Um, but I just had the realization like, oh, PlayStation's never done anything with Lego. Xbox has never done anything with Lego.
Yeah.
Maybe them having seen the success, hopefully that Nintendo's had with it, they
Yeah.
might have some interest too. So let me get these projects out there and see if the interest is there. So, and I will throw out for like the brick patent. I'm not gonna lie, like I spent a lot of time looking at a lot of the past projects. What had been successful, why was it successful,
Mhm.
what gaps are there in like what projects have existed and been improved that like Lego fans would be attracted to and be interested in. And
Right.
so, I realized Lego has obviously moved into a lot of kind of like home decor and art related things. And it was like, what's something that's uniquely Lego, but can also fit into that category of like something awesome to have on display that's not just like a cool Lego build in the traditional sense of like, yeah, I've got like the tall neck here, I've got an Iron Man or whatever, right? Like,
Yeah.
so the brick patent was something I'm like, this is something a lot of fans resonate with and really love and feel connected to. And it's, really the starting point of what made Lego what it is. So I was like, if I can bring this to life in a cool 3D form, and make the build really unique and interesting and have it be an awesome art piece as well, like
Yeah.
that would be, a winning formula.
I love it. I love that patent.
Thank you.
Yeah. That patent build is great.
I like it too. And of all the projects they've done so far, like, while the support hasn't maybe been there as much as I would have hoped, I'm
Yeah.
still going to be doing everything I can to ensure I get that project to 10K because I think by far that has the best shot of becoming an actual Lego set.
Oh yeah. I'll link those in the VOD and
That is super kind of you. Thank you
yeah,
so
of
much.
all the places this will be, there will be links to these things. There's
Sweet.
gonna be a lot of links in the show notes this time.
Sorry, guys.
So so you know, there's been a lot of exciting things happening for you recently in recent times.
Certainly.
There's a lot of stuff going on, and I think the topic and the subject for a lot of people who at least follow your channel and the community, you know, is Lego Masters. And so
Like a what? I
Lego,
don't think I don't know if
I
I've
don't know
heard
if
of
you've
it.
heard of this show. It's called Lego
No, not
Masters.
familiar with it.
The
Sorry.
show on Fox. They have brick builders who build with Lego. I don't know. I don't know if you've
Sounds
heard
like
of it.
Battle of the Bricks. Are they trying to copy me? Or?
Yeah, it sounds a lot like Battle of the Bricks, which is weird. Why did they just call it that?
I don't
So,
know. Should have.
man, I know. Okay, so yeah, I know we can't talk about the
Yeah,
outcome
I
of the
guess like
show.
let's preface like so
Yeah,
I will throw out I'm very excited, of course, that I am a contestant on season 3 of Lego Masters.
yeah,
Um, there's a special sneak preview happening to air around the time that this is, happening, which is really,
yeah,
really awesome. But the
yeah.
show isn't actually airing until fall. So we are quite a ways from away from me being able to kind of talk about it in a more active sense.
Hmm.
So I'm of course really, really stoked for everybody to see, what goes down.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's admittedly not a lot I can say, but you can ask some questions and I can
Yeah, no,
hopefully
yeah,
hit a couple of them for
it's
you.
definitely exciting. I'm really excited to know that you'll be on there, and I'm sure I think those of us who in the community have always said, you know, it'd be really cool to see Brick and Nick on there, and here we are. So, I keeping it broad without spoiling anything. I guess actually we'll tie it in with everything else we're talking about. How has your time as a content creator uh, helped influence the experience while on Lego Masters? Like, has it prepared you at all for it? What kind of lessons and I guess experiences? How has that helped you in your time on Lego Masters?
Yeah, that's a great question. Definitely one I can answer. So I would certainly say I think above all else, viewer build requests has been massively valuable. In that obviously I am just, in the moment taking requests and trying to build them. Right.
Mm,
And the nature of Lego Masters is that you are being given challenges and in the moment you have to figure out how can I build to the best possible thing that I can think of
mhm,
within this theme or this given topic or whatever it is.
mhm.
So I definitely think that went a long, long way to kind of help me tackle this insanity that is Lego Master, the insanity that is Lego Masters.
Yeah.
Um, and so I definitely think that's been hugely helpful. I will say in the general kind of vibe of live streaming and that you're multitasking so much, you obviously have to be able to talk and think on the fly and adapt to whatever may be happening in chat in terms of whatever hype's going on or whatever conversations are happening.
Yeah.
And you still got to be kind of doing whatever the main thing that you're doing is. So, obviously I have to build and chat on a regular basis. And I think that was really, really helpful.
Yeah.
Though I will definitely throw it, and I'm sure it will not be a surprise for anybody to see that. I definitely have plenty of those same hardcore focus modes that I talked about earlier. It
Right?
still exists. That never goes away. As long as I'm a builder, I'll probably have that. So
Yeah.
you can certainly expect to see some of that. I guess that would be the biggest spoiler I've shared so far. But it's also not surprising in the slightest. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, so I think those things more than anything really, were just great things to kind of have in my pocket of skills,
Right.
and was things that I was able to take from my journey as a live streamer and really bring to the show.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
And to be clear, the filming is all wrapped and everything, right?
correct.
Right.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so yeah, it's just a matter of waiting and getting to see
Mhm.
it.
Yep.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
Slugbiker in chat asked a very good question or made a really good point
Absolutely.
here, where you can talk about your partner on the show and how you partnered up with them.
Yeah, so like there are certainly some things I don't think I can talk about regarding that,
Of
but
course.
essentially, got in touch with casting for the show, and they had some suggestions on what I should look for, and
Hmm.
I think they're very logical things. I feel like if you've seen any of the past seasons, you can kind of get an idea of what they're looking from teams. They want a cool story. They want you to have a cool kind of friendship or relationship,
Hmm.
and have an interesting history with Lego in some capacity.
Right.
So when casting kind of started up for this season, I started to think, like, who would be someone that would be really cool for me to try to get onto the show with.
Mhm.
So I, of course, jumped to content creators. Being that I'm now very fortunate to be a full time creator, I'm
Mhm.
like, who's someone who might have a similar story to me in their journey as a content, getting to be a content creator,
Mhm.
and also likes Lego. And so, funnily enough, I turned to Amazon, and I had noticed that someone I got to know through Amazon, her name's Stacey Roy,
Mhm.
um, was not just streaming. She's actually very well known for cooking and drinks. She like has a show called The Nerdy Bartender, and she does cooking with Stacy. But I had noticed that probably over like a year leading up to the casting, she had actually started building a lot of Lego sets on her stream.
Wow.
And so it was just like, this is someone who has a similar career to me, has similar interests to me. She's very nerdy as well. So, that was something I knew we'd be able to easily relate on. And we had related on, and hanging out in each other's streams and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it just seemed like we had a lot of like things kind of lining up and matching up that would help build a good story and for us as a team on the show. And so I reached out to her. She thought it was really random, obviously, but she was very interested at the same time, and
Yeah.
obviously, thought it'd be a really cool and unique opportunity. And so we went for it, and it ended up happening. So
That's so exciting.
yeah,
And so we'll get a sneak peek on the show tomorrow, right? I
and
mean, we're
tomorrow's on
filming
the
this.
stream. I guess by the time this is posted, it would be yesterday.
It would be
Um,
yesterday, but people
yeah,
can
from the
probably
video
find it.
posting, but
Yeah. That's exciting.
yeah,
I'm sure there's so much that you cannot wait for us to see, and I'm
definitely.
just gonna take a moment and hype that
You
up.
guys have no idea what's in store. Like, oh, I
Oh
just
man, it's gonna be so good.
it's just gonna be awesome.
I am excited as just even a viewer and as someone who loves Lego, who is in this community of Twitch creators, and knowing you, like that's just it's gonna be great. I cannot wait. I'll be cheering for you. I'll be
Thanks so much.
probably alongside everyone else talking about the episodes after they drop. So in fall. But I
Yes.
cannot wait. That's so exciting.
Yeah, and I
We've
guess sorry, if I may, if there's one other thing
yeah,
I'll throw out, it's like just the cast. Like I feel so fortunate to have been on the show when I was on the show and
yeah,
be there with the people that I was there with, and I just can't wait for you guys to get to meet them all and get to know them more,
yeah,
and just get to see all the brilliant things that so many different people from so many different walks of life come up with as Lego builders. I
yeah.
think it's so cool.
Oh, I just love it. I can't I'm just gonna restrain myself from asking more questions on that because I know you can't answer. Um, we've breezed through so much, and there was so much covered, and even a lot of things probably left unsaid. But what I sometimes like to do is ask: was there something that you were ready to talk about or had anticipated coming up during this conversation that hadn't yet?
No, honestly, I feel like you've been incredibly thorough and like getting all the things that I would
Just
want to talk about
extracting
out of me. You're like, have you done this a couple times,
just
maybe?
once or twice, maybe.
Once or twice, yeah. Yeah, I can tell. I can tell.
I really, man, I love your story. I love your arc and where you're headed because there's so much more ahead of you. Um,
I sure hope so.
now that you've kind of weathered through a lot of my questions, who would you like to see go through this process from the Lego community?
Go through like
Like
crossing the streams.
crossing the streams, yeah.
Well, if you're not already, I think you did say earlier already planning to have set to build, and he would definitely be way up on the list.
Mhm.
So
That's next
hopefully
week.
that's in the works.
Next week.
Next week, beautiful. Okay, excellent. There we go.
Yeah,
Perfect. Um,
great.
I will say, like, I do think it'd be interesting for you to bring in some like people who aren't doing Lego as consistently. Maybe even find people who have another focus for
Mhm,
their streams, but do Lego on occasion.
mhm.
I think that could be really really fun just to get a little bit of a different perspective
Yeah,
on why they decided to work Lego into their kind of streaming mix, adding it into their variety.
yeah,
Um, I feel like you've covered a lot of the people though I would have told you otherwise.
yeah.
You're really, really good. So
I love
yeah.
it. No, I just it's a question that I love to ask, and I mean, um, I'm glad I'm glad I'm on the right track. It feels like I've
Yeah.
I've got a lot of those people on here, and there will definitely be more.
Yeah, and I'll throw. I'm thank you to Cool in the chat for kind of awakening this part of my brain. But the
Yeah.
Buttress is a really good person who's done a lot of Lego in the past, mixed in
Mhm,
with her. She does Gunpla.
mhm,
I know Banzai Baby as well is an excellent like creative streamer. She does a lot of like like woodwork and craftsmanship stuff.
yeah,
But she also does Lego here and there, and she's super duper fun.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, like those two pops into my like, and well, like him seeing the buttress reminded me of Banzai in particular, and I think she'd be excellent. She's
great.
just an amazing ball of energy. So
Yeah. No, those are absolutely great
mhm.
suggestions, and I've definitely I mean, I've seen them around, so, I mean, they will be on the list for outreach when I psych myself up to ask for them, right?
Yes, exactly. And hey, I like know of both of them. So if you need an in and you
There
don't
we
feel
go.
comfortable going for
There we
yourself,
go.
I'll be happy to assist.
Vouch. Vouch, right?
Yeah.
Um, so you got a lot of stuff coming up in addition. I mean, we
Mhm.
talked a little bit about Lego, Masters, but you got some other things coming up pretty quickly. Would you like to talk
Yeah.
about those a little bit?
Absolutely. So I have been very fortunate to be involved with GCX a lot. That is the Gaming Community Expo. It's evolved a lot over the years. It actually started as Destiny Community Con, then it became Guardian Con, and
Right.
now it's GCX or Gaming Community Expo. And they are an amazing, organization that is really focused on having an awesome event and convention for fans of gaming in general to gather at. But it's all centered around fundraising for St. Jude Children's Cancer Research Hospital. So one of the biggest things that they do every year is a week-long charity marathon where
Mhm.
they have an awesome cast of various creators come together, do these 4-hour blocks where they come up with all sorts of awesome and fun ways to raise money for St. Jude. And I was very fortunate to be invited to be part of that last year. I actually did a sort of Battle of the Brick special for that, where I invited 4 friends from the Destiny community to do a bunch of random challenges over the course of 4 hours. And I'll actually be hosting another blog tomorrow. And I'm taking a little bit of a different approach. I'm actually having a very good friend of mine over. Their name is MD14. He's actually the organizer of the Twitch Toronto meetups.
Great.
And he's going to join me, and we're going to be a building team working together to get a Lego set done. We're going to be working on building the new Optimus Prime set, which I'm stoked for. But we're going to be racing against the clock, and we're going to have our awesome friend, Bricks O'Brien, hosting that and helping, just let us know whatever crazy things we're going to need to do for all the awesome donations.
And where can they see that?
Yeah,
Just
so
on
that is it's the event is happening right now. It's a week long thing, and that is happening at twitch.tv/GCX event. Yeah, if you want to check it out. And I'll be
excellent.
doing that between 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Where else can people find you, if they wanna find out more about Brick and Nick?
You can find BrickinNick on pretty much everything at BrickinNick. So BrickinNick on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Discord. I have a website, brickinnick.com. I'm sure there's a platform I forgot because there's so many of them to keep up with these days.
If you search,
Uh,
you'll find Brick and Nick.
yes, you can just search BrickinNick and you should be reasonably successful finding me. Yeah.
Uh, Nick, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Crossing the
Thank you so
Streams.
much.
It has been an absolute pleasure to get to know you and hear your story and see your trajectory and where you're heading, and I can't wait to see where you go. I can't wait to see everything you do.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for putting this together and like just having this awesome resource for the brick building community to have an easier way to just learn about all the creators, right? Because I feel like the brick building community has just kind of slowly come together and slowly built itself up. And so it'd be very easy to like not have the opportunity to learn about the stories of how people got into the world of brick building. So I
Mhm.
love that you're kind of doing this and giving people the opportunity to share how they got into this and into all this awesomeness. So thank you for doing this.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that.
You
Um,
got
what I love to do, at the end of the episode is give you the floor for any parting words for those that are watching, listening, or hearing this later. What would you like to tell them?
Parting words. You know what I would say? Like, I want to know, like, it's easy. I think it's easy to look at me and go, man, this guy has it so good. And I want to know, I fully recognize that. Like, I could not be luckier to be in the position I am today. Like, I've obviously put a lot of hard work and effort to have a lot of these opportunities come my way, but there's also been a ton of support. My parents, like, I've taken over their basement in their house. I know a lot of parents out there would absolutely not be cool with their kid doing something like this. So if you're lucky enough to have the support around you, like, take advantage of that and just like go for the things that you want to do. But also like, try not to let anyone stop you and tell you no when it comes to just going for the things that you want to be doing out there. Obviously, you have to be practical and realistic. And we all have to have a job, we all have to make money, we all have to go to school, whatever it is. But try to find and dedicate time to like focusing on your passions and building that as much as you can. Um, because yeah, like you just never know where it'll take you if you don't put yourself out there. So just make sure you do that and as much as you can, and to the best of your ability. And yeah, just never give up the things you love, because that is like, I genuinely don't know what my life would look like. It's literally impossible for me to imagine life without Lego. And so I hope you guys can all find your Lego and just go at that as hard as you can.